Every story has an official version, a beginning, a conclusion, a signature at the bottom of the page. But some stories don't end. They're interrupted, silenced, filed away. Tonight we open one of those files. This is Behind the Veil Truths. If you don't accept official endings, you're in the right place. The city that never looked down was Moscow, late Soviet era. A city built on permanence. Wide avenues stretched endlessly. Monuments stood as symbols of certainty. A state that promised control over everything, including crime. Officially organized crime did not exist. There were hooligans, black market traders, petty thieves, but no syndicates, no empires, no parallel governments. And yet, in the southern districts of Moscow, something quiet was forming. Not loud, not theatrical, just durable. It began in places no one archived: gyms, car parks, apartment stairwells, informal markets. Men who learned early that violence was useful, but reliability was more valuable. They didn't call themselves criminals. They called themselves businessmen. According to law enforcement briefings, the Solntsevskaya Bratva emerged during the late 1980s and early 1990s during the collapse of the Soviet Union. Former athletes, street enforcers, market protectors. As the state retreated, they stepped into the vacuum. Extortion, car theft, protection rackets. Later, drugs, arms, money laundering. The official narrative is clean. A criminal group exploited chaos, expanded rapidly, and eventually drew the attention of authorities. Leaders were identified. Assets were seized. Cases were opened. In time, the syndicate fragmented. Power diluted. The threat diminished. On paper, this is where the story slows and ends. Tonight, on Behind the Veil Truths, we explore the dark, hidden world of Moscow's most infamous and elusive criminal empire, the Solntsevskaya Bratva. The city of Moscow, with its wide roads and rigid hierarchies, was once seen as an unmovable fortress of order. Officially, crime was just a temporary deviation, a flaw in the city's otherwise pristine image. But beneath the surface, something much darker was taking shape, a clandestine power that quietly grew in the shadows. In Moscow's southern districts, Solntsevo, Chertnovo, Yasenevo, young men learned a brutal lesson early: the appearance of strength was mere illusion. Police rotations and official transfers kept the authorities guessing, preventing the rise of a true power base. Reputations remained unshakable despite constant rule changes, creating a culture of silent allegiance. Gyms and irregular markets became informal hubs, locations where deals and alliances were forged away from prying eyes. Protection wasn't about violence, it was about predictability and control, an unspoken order reinforced by tradition. Because in this underground world, stability and routine were the true sources of power. Initially, none of this seemed criminal, just the natural rhythm of urban life. Men collected debts politely, disputes were settled quietly, and businesses thrived on schedules. Taxi drivers knew which streets to avoid, shop owners understood whom to pay and when. Strange as it seemed, there were no shootings, no sirens, just a constant hum of routine activity. From the outside, law enforcement agencies struggled to classify what was truly happening because it masqueraded as normalcy. Inside these neighborhoods, however, a complex system of control operated beneath the facade of everyday life. Official investigations later traced the roots of the Solntsevskaya Bratva back to the late 1980s, emerging amidst the chaos of the Soviet Union's collapse. Its founders, a mix of former athletes and street figures, wielded access to violence that was as calculated as it was brutal. They expanded swiftly into a void created by the Soviet downfall, capitalizing on chaos and opportunity. Extortion, car theft, and smuggling became the gang's bread and butter in the early years. As their influence grew, so did their ambitions. Arms, narcotics, and financial fraud soon entered their shadowy empire. Law enforcement all over Moscow was tasked with dismantling this growing threat. Files were opened, arrests made, operations launched. By late the 1990s, reports claimed the syndicate was fractured. Arrests were piling up, influence waning. Official stories proclaimed that the threat had been contained, that the Solntsevskaya Bratva was no longer a danger. The case was closed, an apparent victory in the war against organized crime. But whispers persisted in underground circles, rumors of their continued influence and hidden reach. Many believed the syndicate was merely lying in wait, its power shifting within the shadows of Moscow itself. Some called it a ghost story, a haunting tale of an empire that refused to fully die. Others suggested the Bratva had become ingrained in the city's very fabric, beyond law enforcement's reach. The truth was terrifying. Even in apparent defeat, The organization's influence persisted behind closed doors. This lingering mystery fuels a relentless curiosity, a desire to uncover what the authorities never revealed. Tonight, we open one of those hidden files, the secrets buried beneath official reports. Because in stories like these, the fact is rarely the full story. Truths are buried deep within the shadows. Some stories don't end. They're silenced, interrupted, filed away, waiting for the right moment to emerge again. This is Behind the Veil Truths, where the ghostly remnants of Moscow's invisible empire still haunt the city's corridors. If you believe that the official version of events is just the surface, then you're in the right place. The city's calm exterior conceals a turbulent underworld, one that continues to wield influence across Moscow, unseen and unstoppable. Tonight, we uncover those stories, truths that refuse to stay buried in the dark corners of the city's history. Because as long as silence reigns, the legend of the Solntsevskaya Bratva will remain alive, haunting the city beneath its surface.